And happy Valentine's Day. Some of us wore pink. Few red outfits out there. Okay, so we had a break for January. Who's a first timer? Who's coming to Empowered Senior for the first time? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, and Becky, Becky, would you please stand? This is Becky's first time, and she's one of our sponsors. Can you tell them a little bit about that?
Sure. We're just thrilled to be sponsoring Empowered Seniors. I am the operator of Comfort and Love Senior Care Homes. She and I were both joking about sometimes that's hard to get out. We have brand new homes on the east side of Wichita next to Trinity Academy, 12 private rooms for seniors. And so we're just here to, let everybody know about us and hope that you'll all want to come and just take a look.
Thank you. They really are beautiful. They're across from Magdalene Catholic Church and right next door to the Trinity campus. And they are brand new and beautiful. And I'm sure you all have a red ribbon cutting at some point. Maybe you can announce it at one of our seminars. Okay. So we have a few things on your table. Our big deliverable for the year, Downsizers Club, I'll talk a little bit about that. First of all, could we please recognize all of our sponsors for last year and this year? We thank you very much for partnering with us, because without the sponsors, it'd be impossible to do this. And here we go. And can we have the veterans in the room stand? Randy, I might have you push the arrow button to forward it for me. Okay. And so we'll recognize our veterans, please. Thank you for your service. And do we have a veteran that might like to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Randy, would you like to? Oh, good. Thank you. And Randy, can you just move it forward one more? I'm Catherine Ambrose. I'm a realtor and a certified downsizing coach. And my husband, Randy, and I started this program 4 years ago. We're going into our 4th year. It became a television show offering as well. And we're going into our 3rd season for that. And we became a nonprofit last May, in large part to Dee Haskins with Busy Dee Bookkeeping. She said, you really need to be a nonprofit. And I was very fearful about that. I wasn't sure about letting my ideas go out there to the public. And so thank you, Dee. I know this is the right direction. And we have our foot on the pedal now. So, all right, let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Great. We're doing a duet up here. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, Randy, if I can't get this to forward, I might have to have you keep forwarding it for me. Thank you. Okay, some of you that have been coming for a while or have watched the television program might be familiar with Mitzi Beach, or maybe you just knew her when she lived here. She was a very popular home designer. She helped people with all their decorating and also planning remodels and so forth. She did 2 television programs with us that were very popular, and she was a featured speaker early on, and everyone loved her. When that was going on, she was in the process of her own downsizing move. Her husband was very, very ill. They thought perhaps he might die. He's doing great today. But at the time, they were really concerned. And he said, honey, we're going to have to think about, where would you want to live if you had to live alone? And she took that to heart, and she really thought about it. And even though she'd lived here for a couple of decades or better, she decided she wanted to move back to Central Ohio, where she had cousins and friends from years ago, and that's where she wanted to go. her children didn't even live there, but she had the connections that she knew were right for her. So she did her downsizing move on her own. She sold a home in East Wichita, moved to Central Ohio, and she calls it her last best nest. They live on a golf course. And if you follow her on Facebook or on social media somewhere, she's pretty interesting to follow. It looks like a beautiful home. She's coming into town because she still has a relationship with a doctor here. So she comes every 6 months, and she reached out to us and said she was coming into town. So we're going to get together, and she is going to be a featured speaker at a special event. Channel 8 PBS Kansas has been at the same location for the entire 51 years that they've been here in Wichita. They have just acquired a large building on the east side of town. It's near Rock Road and K96. And we are going to be among the first to have an event at PBS. They're not even going to be moved in, I don't think. But we're going to do an empowered senior event at the PBS studios. And Mitzi is going to talk about the essential reasons to downsize now. And we're going to unveil our new club, Downsizers Club, and give you the details on that. And then that will start the following month. And it will be the first Tuesday of every month at PBS. We'll give you more information on this. But Downsizers Club will be the first Tuesday of every month at PBS. At 2 p.m., it'll be another 90-minute program. It's going to be a smaller, more intimate setting for people that are really, really focused on planning and organizing and just kind of getting things in order. And so we're excited. This was something we were talking about before COVID, back in 2020, and then that kind of sidelined us. So we're very excited that we're unveiling that and getting that started. Okay, next slide when you get a chance, Randy. Does anyone have any questions about Downsizers Club? It'll be a fluid program where club members can come each month until they graduate, which might mean that they feel like they have everything in order in their home or in their life, or that they've made their move and they've gotten settled in. Because we're 501c3 now, and we are raising money to sponsor all the programs that we're doing on television and also the live seminar and the workshops, we are planning our first fundraiser. Brian Spear, could you stand? Brian Spear, he is a board member for Empowered Senior, and in a past life, he was a cigar broker for high-end boutique labels. And he said, well, how about a cigar fundraiser? So it might sound kind of funny to have a cigar event when we're talking about health as we age and all of that. But Brian can give you a pretty good pitch about why it's a de-stressor. But in any case, we see it as a moneymaker and something that will help support our program. And so those of you that would be interested in something like that, or you know somebody that would, just know this is something that we have coming up. And we have called it Charity Smoke. And we have a web page that's going to be charitysmoke.org. It'll be up soon. And we're not really tying it too into Empowered Senior because we want all the cigar smokers in town to come and support our programs. So whether they're into Empowered Senior or not, we just need them to be into cigars and buy a ticket. So we're excited about that. So that'll give us some practice on fundraising also. Okay, and we're going to have Candle Club all to ourselves that day, 4:30 to 8:30 p.m. on a Sunday, so we should get extra great service. So we're excited, lots of prizes, and we'll tell you more each month until it comes out. Okay, Randy, thank you. Next slide. All right, let's welcome our panel. Today we're talking about matters of the heart for Valentine's Day. And my thinking is that if home is where the heart is, then where you live and how you live in your daily life is really important. So we're just going to have a general, candid conversation about your living environment and daily life, and just some conversation on what you can maybe be doing to make life better. So we have Brian Spear, come on up. And Shauna Miller with the Mental Health Association. And Shauna is Shauna has another engagement, and so we'll let her speak first. And Paulette? All right, and I have a couple of extra chairs in case we bring anyone else up as we go. Okay, welcome. Randy, if you'll go to Shauna's slide with her name. There we go, how about that? Perfectly planned. Okay, Shauna, I'm going to hand you the mic. Tell us a little bit about what the Mental Health Association of South Central Kansas does and some of your best stuff about how we can live a better life each day.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me out here, and I'm just, it's really awesome to see all of the things that you're doing. There we go, wow. I have a really loud voice, but here we go. So, absolutely. So, yes, my name is Shauna Allen. I'm the Senior Director for the Mental Health Association's outpatient program. We serve about 5,000 people in our outpatient clinic here in Wichita. We have 2 locations. We have a location at Harry and Webb, and because of the surge of just mental health needs in this community, I've opened up a second location at our Woodlawn location at 555 North Woodlawn. This topic is so important, and I'm so glad that you guys have it on your agenda today. I think, you know, if you're reading the newspaper or watching the news, you know, mental health has been really brought to the table, and I'll talk about a couple reasons why, and even just what you all can do. You know, COVID put a lot of stressors on our system, and even when we're just talking about Sedgwick County, right here in our home area, you know, we didn't have fully operating and functioning processes before COVID. And when I say that, it's just, you know, when you talk about big systems, so big, you know, mental health systems, our police department, our hospital systems, and when COVID happened, it put additional stressors on all of those systems. And, you know, what has happened is that it's put some things at some critical states. On the back end, though, some really positive things have happened because we have more therapists here in our area and in our state than ever. With that, though, there's still not even enough clinicians to go around to serve everyone. And so, you know, with that, it's just really important to encourage the conversation of openness around mental health. And I think, you know, generally what the past kind of census or stigmas that there's been around mental health has been that mental health is for schizophrenic people or people with serious mental illness, and that's so untrue. I mean, we all experience life stressors that can lead into you know, anxiety problems starting to increase, or depression that maybe wasn't so symptomatic that people needed to be treated, but now it is because you have the extra stressors of employment issues. Families have been trapped in their houses and trying to manage school life and home life and work life and family life without a lot of the supports that we normally have in our day-to-day life. Without being kind of trapped and stuck in our homes sometimes. And so those are some of the pieces that have just put some pressures on the system. So your guys' topic today is just about, you know, preparing and doing good planning and just matters of the heart. What is you have a snazzy little, home is where the heart is. How sweet. Yeah. It really does matter. And, you know, even with, and especially because, gosh, don't we all spend more time at home right now? I know the home project list has just increased tremendously at my own house because you spend so much time at home, you're just looking at everything that needs to be done. At least that's how my home life is going right now. But the planning piece and that, and planning your future and what that looks like for each individual person can sometimes even also, it can be a stressor. It can be overwhelming sometimes to even think about how do I put all those pieces together. And those are even reasons that, that maybe it's good, maybe it's a good idea to get a therapist and start to process that kind of stuff with them. The great thing that we always really encourage about therapy and just the huge benefits of therapy is it gives you that outside person and perspective. I really value my girlfriends and my personal connections of people I go to talk to when I need encouragement or just somebody to listen and process through things. But there are definitely personal topics, and everyone's family dynamics and situations are better. And maybe you're not sure how to talk to your son or daughter or grandchildren, and really getting that outside perspective of what are the lists of things that I really need to hone in and talk about. Is it just finances? Is it, even some relationship pieces of I want to better some relationships within my family unit? The topics could be endless of what each person is dealing with and what that looks like. And so there, not only the Mental Health Association, but there are many places that could help with that. And so, what else? Absolutely. Probably that is probably the largest topic that brings people into any kind of service right now is isolation. And what starts to happen when you're isolating. The biggest components of that, and it naturally happens because of COVID right now. But depression and anxiety are usually the big tickers that start to bring people into isolation. And what it starts to do for each individual person can definitely differ. But some of the key factors is that, your depression symptoms, even if there weren't, you didn't have a lot of depression going on, when you start to isolate, it starts to, it's almost like playing tricks on your mind in that, so say you go 1 or 2 months without having a whole lot of contact with the outside world or even family members or just who your support system is. Our mind starts to play some tricks on us with, we start doing all this negative self-talk to ourselves. Well, they didn't want to see me anyways. Well, they've got a lot on their plate, and I'm just not an important person in their life right now. And I'm not saying any of those things are valid or true, but those are the mind tricks that we start to tell ourselves, and that negative self-talk that really just starts to go into play. And so it's a huge one. Yeah.
I think that's a really big one, because sometimes as a grandparent, you might say, oh, they didn't invite me personally, and they're very busy, but just engage yourself. You don't need to be waiting on invites. You just start getting engaged and just assume you are invited. So, and do you have friends that are really isolated? Because we're preaching to the choir here about isolation. Now, I imagine that we all can feel isolated at times, but we're the ones that are going out in public and showing up at Botanica, and thank you very much for doing that. Do you have some friends out there or family members locally or anywhere that are really, really staying fearful and isolated? Because I've been hearing about people lately that they will have food delivered, and then they have somebody come clean the food before it gets and leave it, and then they go out and bring it in when everyone's gone. That's how scared they are. So your point about the news part, it's very healthy maybe to just turn the news off. And the mature population has a tendency to have the television on all the time, have the news on all the time. Do you think that everything in the news is fully accurate? Do you think that they get more viewers when they talk about bad stuff than positive stuff? They sell more advertising. And so, is it healthy, do you think, to be listening to sad stuff all the time on the news? No. Sometimes when I'm watching the news people read the news, I think, well, I could be watching them do my job or do their job, or I could be doing my job, or I could be living my life. So we're watching them live their lives and get their paychecks and work on TV every day after day after day. So we can watch them live their lives, or we could live our own. So I think that is something to think about. And I know someone that knows a lot about social isolation. Brian, I know you've done extensive research and speaking on that, so if you could give us a word about why to avoid isolation and help others.
All right, I'll keep this as upbeat as I possibly can. When we deal with social isolation, there's physiological as well as mental effects that happen. Back in 2020, if we can remember back prior to COVID, Dr. Oz, love him or hate him as a TV doctor, I guess, he was actually on Fox News, and he said that at that time, social isolation was the #1 epidemic afflicting seniors of our time. Now, several months later, we had COVID, so that went out the window. But here's what happened, is during COVID, we all isolated even more, right? He mentioned that smoking cigarettes, 1 pack a day, is the equivalent of being isolated for 6 months. It can do that much to your body. By being just physically isolated from other people and not socially engaging with them, your blood pressure automatically goes up, right? All these other things start happening physiologically just because you're isolated. Sorry about that. I'll try to get this closer. So yeah, we want to make sure that you're not being isolated because we don't want your blood pressure to go up. A lot of times, too, we notice that people, I work for a home health company, Home Health and Hospice of Kansas, right? So what we've seen over the last couple of years is the people that have been isolated, they also got diagnoses missed, right? Sometimes it was because they didn't want to go see their doctor because the doctors are like, hey, we got COVID in the building, or we're only going to do telemedicine, and the doctor can't do a great review of you via telemedicine. But they're also missing routine checkups, right? Routine medication changes. All these other things came about, right? So just simply going out there and seeing your friend that says, hey, you look a little bit peakish today, that might trigger you to go see your doctor, who then finds out your blood pressure's been high or low, or your medications are not withstanding and we have to change them, okay? So do yourself a favor. Everybody here, like Catherine said, is already socially connecting. You're coming out to Botanica, you're hanging out with friends, hopefully you're inviting a bunch of friends in here. When the weather gets a little bit nicer, although today it's kind of nice, I would be going out to the gardens and just enjoying that, right? Get that de-stressor of seeing the flowers or the plants that are still popping up a little bit here and there. I don't know if they have any of their lights lit out there because I have not been here since Christmas time. So just out of curiosity, who all came to the Christmas lights here? Absolutely. It's an annual event, right? You got to come out and hang out with your family and have fun. So, yeah, when we're talking about isolation, do yourself the favor, because our mind, like she said, it plays tricks on us. It'll say, well, we want to stay isolated, we want to stay safe, and the more you do that, the more that habit builds, right? I know Paulette has some things probably that she wants to talk about on this too, because there's other things that happen inside the home that then start to cause you to isolate even more, right? So this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. When we start to isolate, our natural tendency is to isolate more and more and more, and that affects our health mentally, physically, emotionally, okay?
All right, Paulette has some slides. Randy, we're going to have you or somebody run the slides back there. Paulette, come on up here. So Paulette is a speech pathologist. What do you think a speech pathologist does? Helps you speak better? Okay. Well, I think she's going to surprise you with what a speech pathologist really can do and what she's doing here locally. We know that the majority of mature adults want to continue living in their home as long as possible. And the older you get, if you haven't made a downsizing move, the more likely you are to stick firm to that because it becomes more confusing, it becomes scarier to make a move, and then that can lead to challenges at home, which Paulette can address. And also, from our perspective, from downsizing perspective, is that if you miss that window of opportunity to downsize, you're, no matter where you go, you're going to need some support probably at home. But also, I think that when you're proactive and make a downsizing move when you're a little younger, it helps. It helps you to be more socially engaged and be in a safer environment. The home that you raised your children in is probably not the same home you want to age for the rest of your life in. If bedrooms are upstairs, laundry's in the basement, or if it's just not a conducive floor plan, that's something to really think about making a change, and that's a big change, which is why we've got Downsizers Club coming up. And even if you move into another property, there's a lot of services that you can get help with so you can age successfully at home. And we want you to know that there are services, lots of different kinds of services that you can get at home. And Paulette's going to talk about some that we really haven't addressed before. So thank you, Paulette.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paulette Clays. I'm a speech therapist, and I've been a speech language pathologist for over 20 years. I've been in geriatric work for most of those years, roughly 18. And recently, I started my own private practice with physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. So, Randy, do you want to go ahead and give me the next slide? Thank you, sir. So we're talking about home is where the heart is. And what I'm here to talk to you about is home is where you live. It could be the home that you're in right now. It could be the home that you downsize to. Regardless, that's where you live. Does anybody know where that phrase came from? Home is where the heart is. I did my research. So it was written for the first time in a poem in the Fayetteville Weekly Observer in 1879. We have been saying this phrase for so long that it's embedded inside of us. So go ahead, Randy. Next slide. So as a senior, if you haven't already noticed, there are so many sources that you can utilize in our community. And getting in touch with nonprofits, getting in touch with organizations such as this, getting in touch with your physician, a nurse, a social worker, mental health, a home health company, any of us can help you find some of those solutions. So I'm here not to talk about the bottom half of those because that's not my specialty. My specialty is speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy. Randy? So as you can see, I have those up here on this slide. And we asked a few minutes ago what you guys know about speech therapy, right? So what I want to address with you now is, when do you use physical therapy? When you're, what was that? Nobody? When you go to the spa. He said when you go to the spa. Well, that could happen. What about you? That's the exact answer I was thinking I would get. After you have surgery, you use physical therapy. After you've been sick, you use physical therapy. Actually, physical therapy is used for prevention. Prevention of falls, prevention of difficulty ambulating throughout the grocery store to get all of your items. Go ahead, Randy, and click to the next slide if you don't mind. So I wrote out in plain language what we do. First off, physical therapy improves balance. It reduces pain. It can get rid of swelling in your lower extremities. It also is very good for your heart and lung function. We also can, and I bet you didn't know this, female incontinence. Physical therapists can work and help you control your bladder better. And then avoid surgery and prevent falls. That's just physical therapy. Now, when we start talking about occupational therapy, who in the heck knows what that means? What's it mean, Stacy? So once again, we got after you have an accident or after you have a surgery. So what I'm trying to really point to you is that these are preventative services. They're not necessarily something you need after the fact. So as an occupational therapist, they actually work on activities of daily living. So if you have a walker and you have to do the laundry, how do you get the laundry from the bedroom to the laundry room? You might put it on your walker if you've got a rollator walker. But if you're weak and you can't move it, that's what an occupational therapist would help you with. They would also help you with showering, bathing. They could help you modify the home so that wherever you are safe and you can prevent falls. They help you with your grip strength. You can open that pickle jar now. And then at the last here, we have lymphedema. Lymphedema is a method of removing water and swelling from the body through massage. So if you have lower extremity swelling, if you have extra fluid that you're carrying around, there's actually a method that and it feels really good, honestly, where you can have a therapist massage that through, and it actually exerts through the organs. So you urinate a little bit more and you get rid of that fluid. My mother had it done and she just loves it. About once a year we get it done. All right, Randy, do you mind? Okay, if you don't use it, you will lose it. Now, I tried to find the origin of that proverb and it wasn't anywhere. So, sorry. Your muscles, yes, your brain, your muscles, all of those things are connected together. The number one reason that people actually move into an assisted living or a long-term care is because of their thinking skills. Usually, if you have a deficit in your ability to do things, you can pay people to do that. You can stay in your home and get a walker. You can adapt to different things. But when you can't remember things and your cognition declines, you typically end up in a place with assistance. Randy, do you mind? So that's where speech language pathology comes into place. So as a speech language pathologist, I do talk a lot, but also I work with expressive language and receptive language, but also I work with memory. We work on the whole process of helping you be as independent as you possibly can be with your cognitive skills. That can be with strategies. That could be with exercises. We do all sorts of fun little exercises that get you thinking. It could also be education. So if you are caring for someone in the home and they have a cognitive deficit, it's important to know where they are in that cognitive deficit, what stage they are at, and as a caregiver, how do you manage it? Because we know they're going to decline. What does that look like? What's their future look like? What's that decline look like? And when adverse behaviors begin, what do you do to manage those behaviors? Okay, I have a little game for you. Can you guys see that? Okay, now it has the words and the colors. I want you to tell me what the colors are, not the words. Anybody want to volunteer? Yep, hold on.
Red, yellow, blue, yellow, green, black, red, blue, yellow, black, red, green, black, yellow, black, blue, black, red, green.
Haha, she did it. So this is a great example of using your entire brain. You're using the left side and the right side. You're making them communicate together. And these are the types of exercises that a speech-language pathologist would do with you. All right, so next slide. Kill two birds with one stone. This is a Greek, what is that called? Methodology? Right. So that's where that one came from. Oh, and the other one I forgot to tell you, the one was from Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin. This one is from the 1500s, by the way. So when you kill a bird, kill two birds with one stone. You're doing two things at the same time, and you're getting a double benefit. You're doing one thing at one time and getting a double benefit. So you don't have to be super active. You can just go sit in the sunshine and gather some vitamin C. You can start a gratitude journal. That will get your brain going, especially if you are, as you're writing it, you read it because you're using both sides of your brain. Eating healthy. Healthy eating and water are very important for your brain. That's what it lives off of. Stretching each morning. I had a physical therapist do this, and I thought it was amazing. So if you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth and you put on your deodorant and you comb your hair, you're in this little square. If you go like this in the morning, you've just expanded your universe and you're in this big circle. So by stretching, we actually activate our well-being. You can read, volunteer, play cards, and I encourage people to play a game of cards that you've not played before. Learning something new. Changing the radio station from what you normally listen to maybe the Spanish station. 15 minutes of that, and you'll be listening to it, and you'll be like, what is that? Trying to decode everything. Walking and deep breathing. So I read something on Facebook the other day from Catherine. I think it actually was this morning about deep breathing, and it really is an amazing thing. When you breathe in and you breathe out, you can feel the working of God in your lungs. So at the very end of all this, at seniors, you need to stay fit as a fiddle, and as you find your home where you are going to age, reach out to those resources in the community. They're available to you, and most of the time, they come without a cost. Go ahead. That's my name, number, and then the last slide is where I got all the information. Thanks.
Very nice. Can you go back to the Fit Has a Fiddle slide? So some of us recently attended the Kansas Health Freedom Conference, which was really good. Some doctors came in from other parts of the country to talk about health and prevention. And one of the things that struck me, and also a conversation that Mindy and I had with Dr. Tim Watt, who was on the television show in the first season. He's a brain surgeon. He also is certified in anti-aging and functional medicine, very highly credentialed. He spent an hour and a half talking to Mindy and I, and he said that, when someone falls, that's bad. If someone falls and breaks a hip, and that can lead to a lot of ways that cause decline and even death. And he rattled off so many ways it can cause a death. I couldn't even keep up with him, and I'm a big note taker. It was really something. We recorded it, so hopefully we have that. But he said, what I'm even more interested in is what caused the fall in the first place. So by doing some prevention and staying fit, help prevent the falls. So making sure that you and your loved ones are not staying isolated, and that you're working on being as fit as you possibly can, that if you have time when you're here at the gardens and it's nice out to go for a walk. And also strength training is the most important exercise you can do. Walking is easy, you get fresh air, so please do that, but know that walking isn't really enough to stay fit as a fiddle. That strength training is really important, and we've had Club Hope here a lot of times, and we'll have other fitness experts here this year. It's nice to plug into physical therapy and other services because staying fit is really important. And Dr. Watt, when he said, I'm interested in why the fall occurred in the first place, why would a fall occur that leads to a hip breaking? What? Tripping over a cord. A pet, tripping over a pet. Okay, so tripping. What happens to a fit person when they trip? They get up, okay? They catch themselves, okay? So staying fit so you can catch yourself, grab something, land well, it's very important. And so fitness is a really big deal. And I love the idea of a physical therapist being able to come to your home, or a physical trainer coming to your home, or you going to get physical training. Who goes to the YMCA on a regular basis? Yay, great job. Hey, I love your photo of boxing last year when we had Rebel Boxing here. What did you think of boxing? You looked good doing it. That's a different kind of exercise. So there's boxing out there, there's yoga, but finding a place where you can go exercise. Club Hope, maybe, if you're on the west side. And you have some suggestions as well? Great.
For one, mental health people would love her. Everything that she listed on there has anybody ever heard of mindfulness or grounding yourself? Everything that Catherine and she is talking about is grounding yourself, and it's a really powerful tool. And even when they're talking about going out into looking at botanica and things like that. So grounding yourself is bringing yourself into present time and moment. And so we as therapists use it all the time because people come to us about worry and concern and just repeated thoughts that are happening. And what grounding does is it takes you, especially because we do a lot of past worrying about what's happened in the past, or we do a lot of sometimes future worrying that we have no control over. But what grounding does is it hijacks your brain. It hijacks your brain to wherever that thought had went, whether it's past, future worry, whatnot, it hijacks it to right now in present place and time. Because you're looking at, wow, that flower is really pretty. Or let's say you're at boxing, you're at the Y, you're focused on what you're doing right then at that moment for your body. It is powerful, powerful stuff for your brain. And it even helps, start to build cognitive abilities and all of those things. And I just love that you guys are talking about all of these topics because they are powerful for keeping yourself out of isolation and depression.
I think you nailed it, staying in the present. So if you're worried about something that's happened in the past, or you're worried about something in the future, or you're thinking about who did something wrong, or who wasn't nice to you, or why isn't he talking to me, all these different things, then you're not in the present moment. And sometimes if you just let go of your troubles, they automatically solve themselves. And it doesn't do a lot of good to just stew and worry. So grounding, if we're going to be a little more woo-woo, might be even kicking off your shoes and being barefoot. And so feeling the carpet on your feet and feeling the ground outside. That's where grounding comes from. So, okay. Oh, pickleball. So some of us are so excited about chicken and pickle. I've been talking about pickleball for 3 years. Guess who never played pickleball once until last Saturday? Me. And I finally got to go. I went to Chicken and Pickle. What a cool place. Who's been out to Chicken and Pickle? It's really, really fun. And it's huge. They can have 17 private events at one time, just to give you an idea. So you can call and you can book a couple of sofas in a room or an outdoor setting, and then that would be your reservation for your friends and family to meet you there. It's really awesome. So I played indoor pickleball Saturday for an hour. I'm getting a lesson Friday and going back to play Saturday. So you can play pickleball at Chicken and Pickle, at Nahala on the west side. Oh, where else? Come on up here. Senior Services, a nonprofit here in town, and I think maybe you brought pickleball to Wichita. Yes, you were on trend before it was trendy. Have a seat. Stacy with Senior Services. Tell us a little bit about not just pickleball, but a little bit about Senior Services in general.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Braniff. Happy to be here. And I'm with Senior Services of Wichita, and we have 4 community centers that are not just places to work out or play bingo. We do arts and crafts, and we have pickleball courts as well, but we do Tai Chi, saging, journaling, all the things that what we're talking about. Our main focus is to keep seniors active and engaged to keep them in their homes. But we also offer Meals on Wheels and roving pantry. So those homebound seniors that can't get out of their house to get groceries, we'll actually do their shopping for them. And then homebound seniors that can't cook for themselves, we'll deliver them a hot, nutritious meal 5 days a week. And anyone could be a member at age 55 plus, and it's only $35 a year. And we've got 4 centers: Linwood, Northeast, Delano, and Orchard Park.
And there's a few other senior services too in some of the other cities. So, in fact, we have a group here, Blue STEM Communities. Blue STEM, stand on up. These are brand new sponsors for 2022. Thank you so much. Some of the largest senior communities, or perhaps one of the very largest senior community in South Central Kansas. Anne, could you tell us a little bit about what Blue STEM is, and or either one of you, and some of the activities that you have in your towns? Is there anyone here from Heston, McPherson, Hutchinson? Oh, Hutch, okay, very good. So we had a financial gerontologist on TV on Empowering Seniors, and he was from New York, and he did a lot of research on our area and said that our local area is a perfect candidate to be a NORC, a naturally occurring retirement community. And what that means is that the city and the local government and people who live here work together to make it just a great place for seniors to live. And by doing that, they make it a great place for everyone to live. And as he was describing what a NORC would look like, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Blue STEM. So tell us a little bit about your towns that you're in.
Sure. I'm Janelle Bontrager. I am a senior living advisor and independent living specialist for Blue STEM. We have Showalter Villa, which is our campus in Heston, Kidron Bethel, which is our campus in North Newton. We also have PACE programs, which is progressive all-inclusive care for the elderly. We have campuses for that in McPherson and in Hutchinson. So we are all over that area there. And on our Kidron Bethel campus and our Showalter Villa campus, we have wellness centers, swimming pools, wood shops, arts and crafts areas. We have a pottery room. We have, in our communities, walking paths, senior centers in themselves. There's fishing. We have restaurants on our campuses. We have, what am I missing, Anna? Yes, we have pickleball on our Kidron Bethel campus. We have intergenerational activities on our Showalter Villa campus. We have the childcare, Heston Community Childcare. So on that campus, on any given day, there are people from 6 weeks old to over 100 who interact with each other. More so before COVID was a lot of interaction. That's had to change a little bit since then. Showalter Villa interacts with Heston College. Kidron Bethel interacts with Bethel College, so we have intergenerational activities going on in that sense as well. So just a lot of activities to keep us physical, keep our social skills going, our everything, just helping people live their best lives.
So if you're interested in those areas or know someone that is, I would suggest going and getting a tour of the different levels that they have, because there are completely independent homes and just all different kinds of stages and price ranges. So it's really cool. And the local city, the local government has helped with the walking paths and the parks, and seeing the college students interact there is just really awesome. And so that's what we'd like to see even more of. All right, well, let's get some questions going back and forth. And to kind of get it started, Brian, as we've been talking, have you thought of something you'd like to add to the conversation?
Maybe one thought. So as we tie all of this back into home is where the heart is, what can we do to make your home the best living situation we possibly can, right? Is it getting a consult from an outside therapist? Is it going out and playing pickleball with some extra friends? Maybe finding that one friend that is isolating just a little bit more because maybe a physical disability or maybe a mental cognitive disability, maybe we reach out to them just one more time and try to get them connected. Maybe it's just taking them to lunch, right? What can we do to bring all of that back to your home and get your home set up to where it is your plan A and it's a very good plan A, right?
So, what can make a home feel like a stressful environment?
Clutter.
I hear that from a lot of places. Clutter. What kind of clutter? What? Paper, stuff. Do you know anybody that has too much stuff? Most everybody does. Do you think if those people that have too much stuff, if they could get their stuff under control, that they might be happier in their daily life? Yes. So, do you know some secrets to getting rid of stuff, or let's say releasing it into the universe? Have you been thinking about how can we start tackling some of the stuff? Okay, so if you haven't used it in a certain amount of time, get rid of it. How about paperwork? Because it seemed like everybody was saying paper, paper, paper.
I start in about February of every year, and I get rid of everything from the year before other than things I need for taxes. And of course, those I keep for 7 years. So I do a major paper declutter every month in February. And I'm in process right now.
Wow, if we had stars, we would put a star on your tag. Okay, Becky Papa has something.
Well, this is a funny thing because I just moved to Wichita last summer from Reno, Nevada, and I had been saving things that I just knew my daughter would want when I moved. Guess what? She didn't want any of it. She took one doll that was her very first American Girl doll when she was 4 years old. That's it. I had boxes of birthday cards and toys and books. She didn't want it, so check with your kids. They probably don't want your stuff either.
How did that make you feel when she didn't want any of her stuff and you'd been hanging on to it for so long?
Well, at first, I was like, I cannot believe you don't want this important stuff. I got over it pretty quickly, you know.
The best way to get rid of stuff is to make a move because you have no choice. It's like, are you going to come get this stuff? You don't want this stuff? Well, what am I going to do with this stuff? And you got to figure out something to do with the stuff. Now, if you don't move, you can just keep the stuff. And then you still have too much stuff.
I think we've learned that when we talk with our kids about this, we watch for the eye roll.
Nailed it. The old eye roll. Or some little sound that they make. Oh, did I miss somebody? Okay. Because I was going to the magic maker on paper.
Buy a shredder. Best purchase I've ever made. Just shred everything up.
Buy a shredder, the best purchase she's ever made. Maybe it could be like, you know, when you get those plastic wraps with you pop the bubbles. If you could get that excited about shredding paper. It's fun. Okay. How many pieces of paper do you need to keep? We're going to ask you that, Dee.
So I took pictures of all my kids' toys and games that they had when they were little, and I took pictures like, do you want any of these? And of the like 25, they wanted 2. I'm like, great. I passed it on to another young family. But then also with my mom, she's like, well, she's trying to get rid of some things. Do you want this? And I'm like, I don't want it. I'm like, yes, Mom, I'll take it off her hands. And then I donate it. So if you have an offer of people giving you things, take it so you can get rid of it.
I think for me, when I'm downsizing and I'm looking at things, I have like antique records. I just don't, where do I take those? So I just don't want to throw things in the trash. I want to repurpose them. My kids want to throw them in the trash.
I know who knows. Samantha knows. Samantha and Donette, could you meet me up front in a minute? They're like, okay. And Dee, please stand. So Dee's business is called Busy Dee Bookkeeping. And how many pieces of paper do we need to have?
Less than you think.
Excuse me.
None of you probably, I'm hoping, has the paper clutter that I found with one of my clients. She and her sister had 56 boxes of paper all around the dining room, and it curved into the living room and ended up underneath all the tables. So when you are looking for getting rid of all your paperwork, call me, because I'm sure it couldn't have been as bad as that.
Okay, so she's seen it all when it comes to paper. And in Downsizers Club, we will be giving you the information, tools, and resources so that you can figure out all of these things. And if you're not interested in attending a monthly course, you can call us for tips. We're always available at our main number to give you some tips. Carl's going to be a TV star one of these days. We're going to put you on to talk about your woodworking.
That's what I was going to say is I have a small woodworking shop that I was going through and thinking about tools I haven't used in a year or two. But I might need it someday to complete a project. And then I'd have to go back and buy that tool again. So I'm in a hard rock.
Except what Carl's not telling you is his home is fit as a fiddle. He's very organized. You might need it. I don't know. If you're going to make a downsizing move, some practical things you could hang on to for an estate sale. The last estate sale that our estate sale company that we work with the most, the last one they did, they raised $35,000 from that sale. And they had a lot of tools and different things. These are our senior move managers. Dawnette and Samantha have been with us through the beginning of Empowered Senior. They've helped every step of the way. And they know how to find homes for lots of things or tell you what maybe there's not a home for and then what can be done. What would you do with records?
Well, the good news about vinyl albums is they're coming back. So there's an easy solution. Usually those go to an estate sale because they are very popular, but there are some record stores around town now, and so sometimes we'll take them to those if they don't sell, but generally those are pretty easy to get rid of. They didn't used to be. It was hard to find people that even knew what to do with them. But now, a lot of the younger generation, my kids, my 17-year-old loves vinyl records. She's so into it, it's not even funny. So yeah, it's that generation that's getting back into these things, and they're easy to get rid of.
So if you two want, why don't you have a seat up there if you want to. All right, so we're going to open it up, and also I want to introduce Eric from the Mental Health Association. Eric, could you give us a little introduction? We've had you here before, but tell us a little bit more to add to the conversation about improving our home and our daily lives.
Yeah, so my name is Eric Littweiler, and I intersect with this topic in a variety of ways. I do work with Shauna, who had to leave at the Mental Health Association. I grew up in the retirement community. In fact, my father used to be the CEO at Showalter Villa, Bluestem, back in the day. And so I'm very familiar and have worked myself in retirement communities and seen a lot of these issues. I also worked for a faith-based financial services firm up in the Newton and Heston area. And my job specifically was to help people in kind of the post-retirement age group begin the process of reaching their kind of end-of-life goals, giving things away. Did a lot of 4-part series on how to have the conversation with your kids or with your parents, for that matter, about when is it time to stop driving, or how to, what do kids want to keep, so what do I need to keep for you? All those kinds of conversations, which are very difficult to have in that post-retirement age lifespan. And so I intersect with the topic in a variety of different ways, and I'm really glad Catherine does this. I'm really applaud all of you for coming out. I also know, though, that for every single person in this room, there are probably 10 more of you in the Wichita community who are not getting out, who aren't able to get out. And I think about those folks as well who need to be hearing this kind of information So I'm glad you're here, but I know you all know a lot of people who also should be here and can't make it. So we're glad to be talking about these topics. Yeah.
His wife is pretty much his caretaker, but she also works. So he's home alone all the time. It seems like it's getting worse for him. What do you do? I mean, how does dementia play into all of this?
Yeah, dementia is one of a number of issues that tend to cause the issue of isolation we were talking about earlier. My own grandparents had a situation where my grandfather was 6'5" and 200 plus pounds, and my grandma was a little wisp of a thing. And I always thought, man, if he ever fell in the shower, regardless of whether it's dementia or any other kind of issue that's causing that isolation, one of the things that we really talk about at MHA a lot is one of our programs called Senior Companion, where if your families are moving away, if your mobility is lacking, if you are trying to caretake for somebody else, 90% of the time, the person doing the caretaking passes away before the person they're providing care for, because we neglect our own health, we neglect our own medical needs, we neglect our own dietary needs, we neglect our own socialization needs. And so the Senior Companion Program, among many other things that it offers, is kind of a respite opportunity. Our companions who are volunteers come out and can spend time with your spouse or your neighbor or whatever it is for several hours a day and give the caretaker the opportunity to get out and do their shopping and run their errands and go to their doctor and whatever else it is. So, yeah, I mean, dementia, it will affect 1 in 7 people roughly as we age, but it is ultimately just one of a number of things that cause isolation, and we need to be aware of the resources that will enable us to offset those concerns. Actually, the Senior Companion Program, there's no charge for that. The volunteers are paid a small hourly stipend through a federal grant that we receive. But they just do this of their own time. They have mileage reimbursement. They have a small hourly stipend. They're reimbursed for expenses. So if they, prepare a meal for you, the groceries they bought, they'll get reimbursed for that. But there is no cost to seniors at all in availing themselves of that program. And we have people who live in Oregon or Montana and say, hey, my mother's still back in Wichita. We're not around anymore. I'm really worried about her. We can assign a volunteer to that individual. There's no cost to you as the child. There's no cost to the senior receiving services. Any costs that are incurred by the volunteer are reimbursed through the grant, and there's no financial issue with the provider at all. Yeah. I'm sorry? Eligibility is just anyone over the age of 65. Volunteers need to be over 55. The individual needs to be over 65, but there's no underlying need to have a mental health issue or illness or anything like that, no. Our charter as an organization is South Central Kansas. We operate in a variety of counties. I know we offer it, for instance, down in Wellington County. I would have to get some verification on exactly what the counties are covered, but Sedgwick County and surrounding areas, I think it's safe to say, yeah. I have my business cards on me. I'm sure a lot of us do, and I'm happy to hand out business cards. Yeah.
The main number is 686-4500. So that's the Empowered Senior Nonprofit number, and then we can refer you to other nonprofit agencies and companies that can help. And then, Paulette, I know that you might be able to answer something on Medicare or Medicaid, and Brian as well can talk about services at home. And there's also day services. You may have mentioned that. Yeah, respite, okay. And then what's your new Hutch location doing? You can take a senior there. Can tell us a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, that's our program for all-inclusive care for the elderly, and it serves Reno County, Saline, McPherson County, not the Sedgwick County area, but I know there is a local one here. But they do services within the home and then also have the opportunity to go to the day center up to 5 days a week. It's a wonderful program, especially for those that are caregiving, so that they have a break or are maybe working, and then their loved one can go to the day center during the day for meals, activities, community overall. So it's a good program to check out.
Thank you. So there's lots of good services. That's why we have Empowered Senior, is because there's so many things out there, but it's like really overwhelming and hard to figure out. And as realtors, Randy and I saw that a lot of our senior clients could benefit from a lot of things. And as we started research, we figured out how overwhelming this all can be. And that's why we're working so hard to network within the senior industry and help the senior community plug in. What kind of services might be available at home that could have some coverage for Medicare or Medicaid?
Typically, Brian has pretty much similar situation. He's in home health and I'm in outpatient mobile. So what I do is I provide PT, OT, and speech in the home, and typically Medicare does cover 80% of the cost. And if you do have a secondary, then your secondary typically picks up the other 20%. The duration of the services can last up to 12 weeks, and it can be up to 3 times a week in the home, depending on your need and the disability level that you are at. So those are the things that are covered in the home, and I know Brian would like to talk about what his are. So here you go.
And we're not here to sell you anything. We're talking in general. So these are professionals that represent certain companies, but they're also representing certain areas of specialty and general knowledge. So we're not pitching anything specific. We're just sharing information and good value.
Well, first, the day center here is run by Catholic Charities. So if anybody wants to look into that, that's where we would go there. And if you need that contact information, let us know. We'll put you in touch with that person. Other things that can come into home that people don't always think about. Obviously, yes, you can have therapy. You can have skilled nursing come into the home if you have new medications or a new diagnosis coming out. Medicare will generally pay for that for a little while. Your insurance can also be used to tag a in-home provider, like a primary care provider. There's many companies out there now that are providing nurse practitioners that come out to your home, especially in the wintertime when it's more difficult to get out to your primary care doctor. These nurse practitioners can come in, communicate with your primary doctor, and now they're another resource for you. So when you're having issues getting out, these people can come in and help make your home your best life. And obviously you can go see your primary care physician when the weather's nice and it's sunny and you're able to drive on the roads. But you know, last week when we had the ice and the crazy storm and all that sort of thing, a lot of us got locked down. Heck, my company told me don't drive for 3 days, right? We just want to keep everybody safe. And so if a patient really needed help, we reached out to that patient, we got it done. But how nice would it have been to have a doctor come to you and say, hey, or a nurse practitioner and say, hey, what can we do about your medications? So there's a lot of things that you can do to bring additional resources into the home. And I would encourage you, reach out to Catherine and Randy, the Empowered Seniors main line, because they will get you in touch with whatever resource might be needed.
Thank you. So again, downsizing could be something that's in your future, or you might be thinking about that as a plan B, just kind of fixing to get ready just in case. And so I put the Downsizers Club info back up there. We have enough flyers for everyone here. Please come to the free event. This will be really cool. You get a tour of the television station. We're going to talk just about downsizing, and she's got an amazing story to tell you. And then we're going to tell you about how we can help you break down all of these topics and plan in advance for which services you might anticipate in the future and having them all lined up. We're going to help you figure out pre-booking situations. Let's say if you had an injury and you went to the hospital and they can't quite send you home yet, so where are they going to send you? Rehab. Have you been to some rehab facilities in town? Have you had some good experiences? Have you had some poor experiences? Yes. And so we're going to share with you in Downsizers Club all the different types of things that might come up and help you kind of figure out in your mind your pre-booking situation. Like if something happened to me, I'm probably going to choose to go to, might be Center at Waterfront for rehab. And if I felt like I needed to bring in a physical therapist or an occupational therapist or home health that helps you with activities of daily living, this is who I would call, and we'll help you organize all that and plan it. There's some guilt too in these to-do lists. Like, first of all, I don't know what everything should be in my to-do list, but I know I'm supposed to maybe meet with an attorney, and maybe you have a trust, maybe you don't. Maybe you have a will. Maybe you have a durable power of attorney. Maybe you have something that says who's going to help make decisions if you're incapacitated. And so we're going to help you figure out what all these things might be on your to-do list, what you want to have on your to-do list, and then help you check them off and provide homework and that. And a lot of people that are thinking about staying in their current home and only downsizing if they needed to later, they might be thinking about decluttering. And so let's talk a little bit about what decluttering looks like.
Well, decluttering to me means taking things out of the space that no longer serve a purpose for you. So a lot of you may have been in your homes for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And in that amount of time, have you collected things? Do you have some extra things sitting around your house? Maybe stuffed in the back of a closet, back of a drawer, or hidden behind some door, and you don't remember quite what is there, right? So part of what we do when we declutter, even if you're not moving, is open up all of those cabinets, face all of that stuff that you've collected. You may not remember what's there. So sometimes we find some really cool treasures, and we get to hear stories about people reminiscing of what that, what that brings to mind for them. And then there are other times, we just dig out junk, broken things that you thought maybe you would fix one day. Things like that are sitting in people's homes, and you just don't think about them because they get shoved back into a corner. So really, it's a process of going through all of the stuff, a lot of it which you have probably forgotten about. And that's okay. That's what we do, and we'll pull it all out and do the physical work for you. You're just making the decisions as far as what's staying in your home and what's not staying in your home. So if you were to tackle something like this, we just try to be there to remind you what your new life purpose is, what kind of goals you've set for yourself. So we'll go over those types of things and really what you want your life to look like from that point forward.
And so how do you ask clarifying questions that help people make decisions? Now, it's easy if you're moving because you know where you're moving, how many bedrooms you're going to have. We can do a floor plan for you, or you can figure out kind of for yourself what you're taking with you. And so these are things you can do on your own. You can get free consults. You can get some coaching along the way, or you can get full service. There's people out there to help do these things. If you move, it's sometimes easier because you know how much space you have. Now, sometimes people get tempted to put things in storage, which, what is that? Now, that's another thing to feel guilty about and pay for and think, you're putting more work on yourself later. So we're going to encourage you to try to tackle everything so you have things settled, because that's going to provide so much stress relief. We say it's going from being overwhelmed to overjoyed. And when you're not moving, it's very challenging because you could keep all the stuff if you want to, and you might think you want to get rid of stuff, but it can be a challenge. Oh, what should I do? And as humans, we circle the same thoughts over and over. We think we're thinking new thoughts, but we have a tendency to just kind of get back into patterns and kind of think the exact same stuff. That's why grounding is really good, and physical exercise, and trying to stay in the present moment. And also maybe having a coach or consultant or homework that's helping you figure out what you want to do and check it off the list. So tell us what coaching is like, downsize coaching and asking clarifying questions.
Well, so to me, I mean, if I go in and help somebody to declutter, I would want to start, in a closet and just pull everything out and start asking questions. Why is this still here? Is this something you want to pass on to somebody else? Can we do that now? If you have a place for it, you tend to keep it. But if you look at that space, it's just full of old baggage. I mean, it can be baggage. One of the things I say, if it's an album of a fire that you had in a home, why are you keeping it? That's nothing positive. So it's an honor the space that you have by decluttering it. Go ahead and get that out of there. While we're there, we're doing the physical part. That to me is the part that's why it's still there. It's because nobody came and did anything with it. You have other things you'd rather be doing, but if you have somebody there working with you, I don't know, I always do a lot better if I have somebody doing the project with me. So that's a huge part of the help that we can provide. Just having the company, talking through it, staying on the task of it, and then not just saying, okay, well, I'll get rid of that. Then we actually take it and get rid of it. A lot of people, you put things in a room because it's out of the way. You're not sure what you want to do with it. But how long has it been there now? Let's go ahead and take care of it. But it's a matter of, if you're not using it, why are we keeping it? And thinking that through, coming to the final decision. We don't just ignore it, okay, I might let you wait till tomorrow, but that's it. Then we go ahead and dispose of it in whatever way you want to do it.
We do bring dumpsters sometimes. So use it or lose it, that's kind of the flip side of use it or lose it. So use it or lose it as far as your brain and your physical body to keep it going. But on the junk, maybe you do want to lose it. And so recently you helped a young woman clean out her bedroom. She's a collector of a lot of things. And I know what she told me, and I imagine she told both of you what that meant to her to have you clean out her bedroom.
So we do tell people that you may hate us during the course of the day at some point. Because we're asking the hard questions and we're making you kind of make the hard decisions, and we're not making those decisions for you. We will physically do the work for you, but really we're counting on you to tell us the story so that we can see what's important to you. And over the course of those days or weeks or however long it may take, you're going to have your moments of wanting to say, get out of my house, I've had enough. And that's okay. That's okay. It happens that way sometimes. But what always does come back around is the thankfulness that we've been there and we're getting things accomplished with you. Not necessarily just for you, but with you, because we are really working with you because it is your space. So, we're okay with being disliked for a while, as long as in the end you're pleased with what we've done. And she's had very positive things to say. It's a situation where, unfortunately, physically, she's had a lot of surgeries recently. She is younger, but she cannot get around like she could even a few years ago. So it's just a situation she needed a lot of help, and she's on 2 different levels. It's very hard for her to get up and down the stairs, and so she spends a lot of time in her bedroom. Her bedroom, where the bed sits, she looks right into her master closet. every day, all the time. And it was a mess. So that's what really mentally got to her, is knowing that she physically could not do that by herself and not knowing what to do and where to start. So it was just staring her in the face every day, and it was a constant worry. Yeah, it was just always on her mind. That's what she looked at all day, every day. So we managed to get that done in a couple of days, and the mental difference, and hopefully it'll make some physical difference too. But the difference in her, I guess, attitude, it was just amazing to see the transformation. She could not believe that we could get that amount of stuff done in a matter of a few days. So
for her, it was like a whole new life. She couldn't believe how great her bedroom was. And actually, I've had very few complaints, but this mother and daughter, an older mother and a daughter maybe in her 30s, they thought that you guys were a little rough in the first conversation, which never really happens. And but then they ended up so they are so happy, and it really does make a huge difference. So Downsizers Club can help you figure out things and do it yourself. You can get a consult, or you can get additional help, but that kind of help is out there. And it kind of reminds me of seeing a therapist to help with your mindset and just dealing with things in your life, or seeing a physical trainer that you might really not like during the training, but it's really helping you get better. So reaching out to professionals to help you in all these different areas, it's very important. Self-care. We're going to talk a lot about self-care this year. And Randy, can you take it to the very end? Our next one is for March. I'm kind of doing a theme here. Luck favors the bold. St. Patrick's, March 10th, so we're getting pretty close to St. Patrick's Day. What we're actually going to be talking about is getting bolder with nutrition, mindset, and health matters. That conversation that we had with Dr. Watt, I said, well, what about, people that are isolated? Maybe they'd be better off moving into independent living where they could get 3 meals a day. Because to me, doesn't that make sense? You get to eat 3 times a day? And he said, well, first thing I would ask is, what's the quality of the food that they're eating? Like, oh, good point. Good point. So the more conversation you have with people, the more it helps shed light on what you want to do. So we're going to talk about thinking differently about feeding yourself, thinking differently about what nutrition is in 2022, what self-care is, and more on mindset and health matters. But let's utilize this star-studded panel here. Star-powered panel, that's what I want to say. We have their time, so let's ask some questions. Who has a question for us about anything that we've talked about today? Yeah, no questions. So, okay.
Let's see. Paulette, are you Medicare certified facility? Okay, I want to know that. And I didn't get your first name, but does the city of Wichita contribute anything to these senior centers, or is this simply self-sustaining through membership?
Donations, grants, but it is not a government facility.
Okay, my question is why not? I know for senior citizens belonging to senior centers, our membership went from $25 to $35 this year, inflation. But I'm just surprised the city of Wichita doesn't contribute something, because I know Derby and some of the other cities do.
Okay. So that's interesting. And yeah, Derby has a really nice senior center. We did 2 television programs there. Really nice.
That would have to be a question for our business manager.
Okay, so I think I can help answer that. So they are really, really good at raising money. The $35 or whatever it costs to be a member is not paying anything. It's not a drop in the bucket for the services that they have. This is a huge organization, and they are professionals that are skilled at applying for grants and doing fundraising. They are doing so many incredible things. We'd have to do, I think, a whole television episode or a couple of them on it to even begin to cover it. So that's what nonprofit organizations do, is they apply for grants and they do fundraising, donations, special events to raise the money to fund things. The one thing about having the government fund it is, my concern would be, like in Derby, maybe it is awesome, but would it limit what you're able to receive? And so I'm all about empowerment. That's why everything that I have is named Empower Something. So Empowered Senior, DBA, Empowering Seniors. The television show is Empowering Seniors because we want to equip, educate, and empower seniors. We want you guys to be in charge of your health, your joy in your life, your home. We want you to make decisions for yourself. And we don't want to be limited by government agencies. So that would be my thing. I like the idea of grant funding. There's a lot of money out there to help seniors. And so let me tell you, these services that are out there for you to plug into, let us know what you need. We'll help you find it, because there's grant money out there to help provide these services.
My experience in working with my mom is with preventative things. They aren't covered by Medicare, only after something happens to repair, and then once she gets to a certain level of ability, then they just drop her. So how do you navigate getting Medicare to cover for preventative therapy services, especially speech, OT?
Great question, Carolyn. I would imagine she's got some skills up her sleeves. And then what I would encourage you to empower yourself is to spend some of your own money. Yuck. A lot of times we're talking about health or medical. I'll mention something to someone and they'll say, well, do they take insurance? No, that's why they're so good. So go get your insurance stuff, but go get some other services. Let me tell you, the younger generations are spending money on coaching, consulting, self-care, fitness training, all of these things. They're learning about grounding. They're learning about mental health. They're learning about all these things, and it's something that the more mature population has missed out on. So you remember when you sent your kids to piano lessons and you sent them to go play football and do all these things, and you wrote out those checks because you were helping develop them for the future? Now's the time to help develop yourself to the best of your ability by writing some checks or plugging into some of the services that are out there. And guess what? It's going to be a lot more fun to go out there and challenge yourself to make every day the best that it can be and plan for a good future, because the worst thing that can happen to you is that you stay stuck. Okay, so that's what our organization is about. That's what Downsizers Club is about. That's what all of these services are about, is helping you get unstuck. So we want to figure out, how can we get into action? All right, how do you get some money out of the government to help with prevention?
Okay, so this is going to be a little complicated. Medicare bills organizations bill Medicare in a couple ways. The first way is Medicare Part A. With Medicare Part A, you need a qualifying event. And that is what you're talking about. Is your mother had a fall, she went to the hospital, she came out. That is a qualifying event. When they do that, then they typically can either go to rehab or they can go to home, where they have a home health service, which includes nursing and other things, physical, occupational, even social work, to help navigate through the process. But then there's an opportunity to utilize Medicare Part B when you have pain, swelling, difficulty walking, any of the things that I spoke about earlier that will prevent you from having that qualifying event. So that's how it works, and Medicare does take care of it. And I'm not the only person in the world that does it. There's lots of other people that do, so if you call the main number, they can help you.
Do you have something to add there?
Yeah, a lot of the outpatient centers, they also bill Part B. Obviously, we want to bring as much home to you guys as we possibly can. That qualifying event, going to the hospital, having that emergency room visit, we need to prevent that at all costs. At this point in time, even with our COVID numbers communally going back down, if you don't have COVID, by the time you get to the ER, you will tomorrow. Because right now our ERs are so overloaded because of staffing, not because of rooms available, right? But due to staffing, you're waiting in the ER for much longer now than what we ever did before. So reach out, get those numbers, get these people to come into you first. And like Catherine said, there are other services out there that you can private pay for that can help with activities of daily living, that sort of thing in the home at relatively reasonable rates. So if you had to pay for somebody to come in to help you with a few things to get through it as you're getting these other things going on, reach out and we'll get those set up for you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. Thank you, Charles.
I had an event that I got a bill. It was a large bill, and it really upset me. So I called the insurance company. The lady looked at it, said they coded it wrong. If they would put this code in, that expense goes away. And in 2 weeks, it was gone, just because of coding. So you need to call the insurance company and find out why they did not cover that.
And so when you are working with a company like American Senior Benefits that sponsors the show, where you have a person at your insurance company, is that who you called, somebody like that manages your insurance, or did you call a 1-800 number?
I got her later. She's our insurance agent now. Before, I had no number to call. So I called directly to the insurance company.
How'd that go?
That's who took care of it. So if you go in and you ask for help, most of the time those people will try to help you. If you go in angry, they're going to react to you. So
Okay, so communication is a big deal, and that's something that we cover from time to time is best ways to communicate with people. But if you have a person, like a live human being person that you can see face to face, or call a local number to get to help you with these things, then you just call your person and say, oh my gosh, I just got this bill. And then they will call the insurance company and do that, because Charles was able to manage that himself. But I can tell you that a lot of times it can be extremely difficult, if not impossible, or just take up so much time where you might have another event trying to take care of the event.
I will call her from now on because she's our agent now.
So and that's Cherie? Okay. So he said, I'll call her from now on. It's really nice to have somebody. You know what? They don't charge for that. Nothing. Did you get a bill to talk to her? No, they don't charge. So, all right, who else has a question? And Mom, what do I tell you all the time? Don't call what?
What? Don't call 1-800 number. Oh, yes, don't call 1-800 numbers.
Don't call 1-800 numbers. Call a local person. We got local people.
Okay, do you need to have a doctor's order in order to engage the physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, or can it be done like directly through your agency?
I love that question. Can you get physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy services, or do you need a doctor's order? Now, my first question is, what doctor? Because if one doctor won't provide the order, maybe you need to have another doctor that will. So maybe you have your insurance doctor that says, oh, I can't do that. And then you have your other doctor that you're seeing on the side, and they will write an order. You always have to have a side doc.
Okay, yes and no. If you want to pay out of pocket, you do not need an order. If you want to use your insurance, you do need an order. Now, typically the order comes from primary care, and typically whoever you work with can get the order for you.
So when we're trying to get those orders, I've worked with a lot, and I'm sure Paulette has too, a lot of primary care physicians that said, oh, hold on, I haven't seen you in a month, or I haven't seen you in 2 weeks, or you didn't come to see me because you stubbed your toe, or whatever that is. And it becomes difficult sometimes to get that order. You have to set up another appointment, you got to go see the doctor, and you have to kind of fight for your right to get the additional services. Be very inquisitive about what physicians you're using. Maybe you're going to use a concierge doctor, maybe you want to use a nurse practitioner to come to the home, because these people, how many people see their doctor and it's 5 minutes or less, and most of the time they spend looking at their screen, right? That's a product of Medicare, okay? That's a product of the insurance companies telling these doctors, in order for you to make a living, you have to see X amount of people in a day, otherwise you can't keep your costs going, right? So these concierge doctors, where maybe you pay a little bit more money, I personally go to a doctor where I pay about $140 a month, whether I go see her or not. But that's for my whole family, okay? And when she comes into the room, I can ask her any questions that I have. I can ask her any questions about my wife's care that I have, and she spends 20, 30, 40 minutes with me without worrying about the next patient that she has to go jump in on. They schedule it that way because they're getting paid by me, not by the insurance company, okay? I'm important to them now. So be inquisitive and find those other doctors. I work a lot with nurse practitioners that will do the same thing. They'll come into the home, they'll see what you're dealing with, and they will write the orders for me instantaneously.
Okay, very good. I wrote down a couple things. We were talking about the brain and dementia, and you are doing the best thing for your brain right now by getting out of the house and coming out to the gardens and engaging in conversation. You're thinking about stuff while we're talking about stuff, and that's really good for your brain. We have a dementia mini-series that's coming out for season 3. It's going to be at least 6 parts with Teepa Snow, who's the world-renowned expert in dementia care. And the series is built all around her. And she said when you stay at home, you might feel safe. Your friend who stayed at home today, they might feel safe and comfy. But the thing is, they're not challenging their brain because they're in their home environment where they're comfortable and they're kind of having those same repeat thoughts. And things are just, just same old, same old. If you have to think, okay, I got to get ready to leave. What time do I need to leave? What am I going to wear? And you're thinking about everything that goes into having your clothes ready and having the house ready and the pets ready and everything. And you get in the car and you go somewhere and the drive over there. And how long have we been here? When are we leaving? What are they going to talk about next? What are we going to do for lunch? When am I going to be home? What do I do when I get home? Should we stop and do shopping on the way? That is all good stuff for your brain. And so you're feeding your brain today. You want to challenge your brain by not staying isolated in your safe place. And if you're thinking about making a downsizing move at some point in the future, or to have that as your plan B, I'd really like to encourage you, because the older people get, the harder it is to do that. And the most loving thing you can do for your spouse is get them set up for success after you're gone. Because a lot of spouses will not move because that's where they lived with their spouse, and things just get worse and worse until there's an urgent crisis. And it's a lot harder to do it if you're currently married. It's a lot harder to do it later on than doing it together as a couple. So why do people downsize? Sometimes they do that because someone is experiencing cognitive or physical decline. A lot of times the wife will decide, we're going to get this done, I want to get it done. Sometimes it's the husband that says, my wife has always taken such good care of our family and our children, I want to do it for her. And I want her to get settled. So we're prepared to answer any questions you have on any of these topics, but I just wanted to tell you again to think about coming to our Downsizers Club event, and we hope to see you in March. And does anybody have a last word? Eric? Okay, anyone have a final question? Okay. Last question.
The way the housing market is right now, it's very difficult to find a place to downsize to. And you being in real estate, do you see the market opening up anytime soon?
I did not pay her to say this, but Mary, we are planning another luxury bus tour to go look at patio homes. And we also are planning to do a town hall with local builders and developers to find out what kind of plans they have to add more housing here in the market, and to communicate to them what we'd like to see for the mature market. So that's something we're working on. That's a good question. We're going to talk to the builders and developers about that. That is a challenge right now. Yes, and again, having a professional makes all the difference, because if you're looking on your own, it's going to be much more difficult to find the right place. If you're working with someone that really is a specialist in downsizing and can help you figure out what you're looking for, we have ways to find places for our clients. There's no cost for that when we're working with you on buying or on renting something. There's zero cost to you, and we can make all the difference. We put a lot of things on our blogs, but sometimes we keep a little to ourselves because we want to be able to accommodate you and your needs and not just put it all out there. Okay, so that's a wrap for today. If you have more questions, come visit with anyone. We hope to see you next month. We're asking for feedback on the seminars and also feedback on Downsizers Club. Where else you might like to see us do a Downsizers Club in the future. We're going to start off with one first Tuesday of every month, 2 p.m., but we might add more in different locations later. Thanks for being here and have a great day.